Welcome to this course titled Interactive Instruction and Timestamp, as designed and produced by the Region 11 Education Service Center. In this course, you'll use an interactive instruction strategy with a timestamp to actively involve the students in the learning process. At the conclusion of this course, you'll have an opportunity to demonstrate your understanding of the stated learning objective by participating in a demonstration lab that's sponsored by Region 11 certification team. During the demonstration lab, you'll present a 10-minute mini-lesson in which you model the use of interactive instruction with a timestamp to introduce a task or skill. You'll receive feedback based on the proficiency rubric you see on the screen. To earn credit for this course, you must score at the proficient or master's level. For today's presentation, you'll need a copy of Teach Like a Champion 2.0 and Focus by Mike Schmoker. So, grab your copy of the resources and let's get started. We will begin with this quote from Robert Marzano. He says, "Interactive lecture dramatically increases students' understanding of new information across content areas and at every grade level." What is this interactive instruction mentioned by Marzano? Well, interactive instruction is a method of teaching where lessons begin with more teacher-centered approaches, with the idea that the responsibility of learning gradually releases to student-centered instruction towards the middle and end of the lesson. Interactive instruction promotes constant engagement and allows for students to practice with assistance before working independently. In other words, we shouldn't expect our students to simply sit and get, listen and memorize. Instead, we should have them demonstrate a process, analyze an argument, or apply a concept to a real-world situation. Interactive instruction is a technique used to actively engage students in the learning process. The students are invited to engage in discussions with the teacher and with other students. This method of instruction is an effective way to connect with a generation of students that are used to constant stimulation. I do, we do, you do, sometimes referred to as gradual release of responsibility, is an interactive instruction technique in which during the lesson the responsibility for knowing and doing is gradually transferred from the teacher to the student. The process starts with direct instruction of a new task called I do. This is followed by guided practice, we do, and finally completed with independent practice, you do. This creates a high level of student engagement throughout the lesson and helps to ensure the student's ability to master the task. The I in I do refers to beginning by delivering key information or modeling and explaining the process you want your students to learn. In the I phase of the lesson, the teacher introduces the new skill. A good I will include modeling and explanation, student interaction even though you're leading, planning in advance for common mistakes, and pre-teaching possible pitfalls. In the we do phase of the lesson, the teacher gradually allows the students to begin completing the task. As the lesson progresses, the instruction moves from I do, you help, to you do, I help. Through ample practice, the students gradually require less and less help. A good we do will include the goal to push more and more of the cognitive work out to students, will help process questions such as what should we do? It'll help execution questions such as can you show me how to do it? And it'll help prepare your students to understand and self-manage the task. In the you do step, the students are provided the opportunity to practice on their own, with multiple opportunities to perform with increasing difficulty. A good you do will include repetition, as students need to practice over and over until automaticity is formed. It can also include the use of multiple variations and formats and opportunities to complete more challenging tasks. The I do, we do, you do is best applied in a 5-step process. This process allows for the gradual transition of responsibility, provides ample time to practice, and leads to the mastery of the task or skill. The I do, we do, you do technique is effective and easy to implement and should provide a solid framework in most lessons. Students gain mastery through ample and proper practice. At this time, please pause the video and read more about interactive instruction. In Teach Like a Champion 2.0, read pages 157 to 161 to learn about lesson structure. Then, in Focus, read pages 52 to 62 and 67 to 89 to learn other ways to design lessons. We measure things because they matter. Time spent in the classroom matters. Time is the greatest resource you as a classroom teacher must manage. Be strategic and intentional with how much time you spend on each task throughout your lessons. Adding a timestamp to activities will aid in time management. During an activity, time should be intentionally measured to shape both you and your students' experience in the lesson. Here's an example for how to include a timestamp. In a moment, when I say go, you'll have 1 minute to find the least common denominator of the two fractions. This creates a sense of urgency for the student and aids in keeping the pace of the lesson on track. When you set goals, you ask students to try to accomplish things with the greatest efficiency they can. Showing the clock gives rise to a time-sensitive culture. Students know where they stand on time. Showing the clock also has the added benefit of helping you to discipline yourself to stay focused on the task and use time effectively. Consider using specific times and odd increments for activities. A time allocation of 10 minutes sounds like an estimate. Round numbers often contain an implicit "about" in them. In your classroom, be specific about exactly how long students have for an activity and vary your allocations. 7 minutes on a task is usually better than 10 minutes. If you really want to change things up, try something like 2.5 minutes. The variations in allocations for different activities or different iterations of the same activity communicates your intentionality about time. You care about time and are precise about it, and this makes others respect time as well. Let's pause here for a bit and read more about timestamp. In Teach Like a Champion 2.0, read pages 220 to 224. Then, watch clip 26 from your Teach Like a Champion video library resources. The video is called Work the Clock. Now that you've learned about how to incorporate interactive instruction and timestamp, let's review the proficiency rubric one more time. During the demonstration lab, you'll present a 10-minute mini lesson in which you model the use of interactive instruction with the timestamp to introduce a task or skill. For this mini lesson, you'll use an interactive instruction activity with the visual timestamp to actively involve the students in their learning process. The goal is to have students fully engaged during the I do, we do, and you do portions of the lesson, while providing them sufficient opportunities to work together and finish working independently. Here are some tips for your upcoming mini lesson. Spend up to the first 3 minutes introducing a new concept or skill. Try to keep the length and difficulty of the task or skill manageable. You don't have to introduce a complete task or skill at one time. The I do, we do, you do process can be repeated several times in a lesson to master larger tasks or skills. Spend the next 3 minutes providing guided practice opportunities. Use questions to draw students into the process. What do I need to do next? Or can you show me how? Are good ways to start the transition. The goal of the We Do is to provide guidance, but pushes students to begin to take more and more of the responsibility for the learning as they move toward independent practice. Spend the next 3 minutes providing students with multiple opportunities to practice a skill or task independently. Consider increasing the level of difficulty with each practice opportunity. Use the remaining time to bring the lesson to a close. This is a good time to do a final check for understanding. Ask students to recall the key components of the task or skill they've learned. Good luck as you prepare to demonstrate your interactive instruction and timestamp mini lesson. You got this! Thank you for watching this course module titled Interactive Instruction and Timestamp. Please feel free to review this video at any time. This module referenced the books Teach Like a Champion 2.0 by Doug Lemov and Focus, Elevating the Essentials to Radically Improve Student Learning by Mike Schmoker. Images used were downloaded from Unsplash and Pixabay.